All right, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. I want to welcome everyone to today's webinar, Are You Leaving Money on the Table with Leviton? I'm your host, Timothy Johnson, Digital Editor for Electrical Contractor Magazine. Before we get started, I need to go over some housekeeping items. The audio for today's presentation should be coming through your computer speakers or headphones. If you prefer to call in, there's a toll-free number in the event info panel. If you have other difficulties, please reach out to me using the chat window. Also, please note that today's presentation is being recorded, so if you miss anything or something comes up and you have to leave, you can come back at your convenience. And I'll notify everyone after the event's conclusion when the presentation is available. Finally, there will be time for Q&A after the presentation. We've planned to have a good chunk of Q&A, so please ready your questions. You can submit them at any time through the Q&A box or comments in the chat box. They should be on the right side of your screen. If you're having trouble finding these features, hover your mouse at the top of the screen, as you may be in full screen view. A control panel will drop down, and you should see those options there. Now on with the show. Our presenters today are Tom Degnan, Manager of Contractor Channel Development at Leviton, and Fred Sargent, Service and Maintenance Contributing Editor for Electrical Contractor Magazine. Tom holds a degree in marketing from Syracuse University and has gone on to successfully market everything from consumer electronics to wiring devices in a career that has spanned more than 20 years. Currently, Tom works in Leviton's corporate marketing department, where he develops marketing programs for electrical contractors. Fred is the former CEO of a nationally ranked electrical contracting firm. With 45 years of experience in the business, Fred focuses on programs to benefit advancement of service and maintenance work in the overall sales mix of electrical contractors. Along with fellow electrical contractor contributor Andrew McCoy, Fred writes the service maintenance column for Electrical Contractor Magazine. I want to thank you all for attending. Now I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Fred Sargent to get started. Fred?
Good afternoon, and let me begin by adding my thanks to everyone who's signed up to participate today. The fact that you're online suggests that you've already done some kind of consultative selling we'll be talking about, and actually maybe a lot of it, but mainly you have experience and knowledge of how to help customers find good solutions to what they need and want. So I hope you discover a few new ideas here that you feel have great take-home value. In this data-driven world, plenty of data supports a strategy of targeting residential remodeling. It deserves a special place in your company's complete portfolio of services. Now, if by some chance it's not now one of your company's core activities, it's good to know you're on board here today. The Remodeling Market Index reached a high point of 60 in the fourth quarter of last year, and has actually stayed above the 50 mark ever since. Indeed, it's been at or above the 50 mark for 5 years straight. That's the sort of thing which naturally attracts new players, new competitors. And so how do you stand out from the crowd? Or as they say in the world of marketing, how do you differentiate your company and differentiate what you have to offer? Well, every call on a customer is an opportunity to set your company apart, an opportunity to become a trusted advisor. And, you know, we could stop the conversation right here on this one point, because in many ways it's the most important point of all. Because if you gain a position of trust with your customer, you will be able to provide your customer with the best of all the services you can deliver. And as you know, you will excel as a, quote, technical expert, not by wowing your customers with technical mumbo-jumbo, but by giving their confidence in your knowledge of how to provide them with what they need and what they want. It's all about being a solutions provider, a problem solver. And the best definition of service is problem solving. Tom?
Good points, Fred. This is Tom Degnan, Contractor Channel Manager here at Leviton. I'd like to expand on some of what Fred just talked about, specifically increasing customer satisfaction and also earning more revenue while you're on the job. I'm going to talk about upselling and cross-selling. So what is upselling? Upselling is simply suggesting a better version of what you're already installing. Now, quite often you're already on the job. You can make more money by upselling rather than installing a typical device. A great example of this, as you're looking on the screen here, if you're called upon to install a receptacle, you're looking at a Decora receptacle on the lower left-hand corner, which is a great product. But, perhaps you want to upsell to what you see on the lower right there, a USB receptacle. Oftentimes, if presented to the end user, the customer, the homeowner, or facility manager, if it's explained to them the benefits of that, everybody realizes that everybody has a smartphone these days, and everybody's perhaps experienced the challenge of trying to find the transformer to charge your smartphone. So once explained that this product is available, customers are often receptive to it. This particular product is one of my favorites because this particular product is the first time in our industry, as far as I know, where we've enjoyed an impulse item. An impulse item is kind of like a candy bar at the supermarket. You're at the supermarket, you're buying your groceries, you're at the checkout line, and that's where they put all those impulse items, where the supermarket tries to get you to buy one more thing. As an electrical industry, we're not really, there's not too many similarities between electrical devices and supermarkets, but in this particular case, we enjoyed an impulse item. We took this USB device that you see on the bottom right, we made a small display, and we put it at our distributor locations. Contractors came in, said, wow, that's a great idea. They would buy, give me a half dozen of those. We've never seen that in our industry, where a contractor would buy a half a dozen of a product on speculation. He'd put that in his truck. When he would go on either a service call or an estimate or a sales call, he would say, okay, well, ma'am, you're calling for a duplex receptacle. In addition to Decora, we have this USB device. And immediately they know what it is. They appreciate the fact that you offered it to them, and they say, you know what, I'll take one of those. So once again, impulse item, we're enjoying increased margin on it. And what are we talking about? I know contractors typically, when they doing an installation or service work, when they install a device, they typically mark it up 100%. I mean, we're in America here. That's acceptable practice. That if you're selling an item, you mark it up from what you paid for it. So contractors, from what I glean, they typically mark up devices 100%, and that's a fair markup amount when you're selling devices. So if you're selling a duplex receptacle, say you pay $1 for it at your local supply house, you mark it up 100%, well, you just made $1, right? Hey, $1's $1, but if you sold a Decora receptacle and you paid, let's say, $2.50 for that, now you made $2.50. Okay, now we're moving somewhere here. Now think about the USB receptacle, and again, the numbers I'm throwing out, the cost of these things, it all depends on where you're buying and how many you're buying, but just round numbers just to make it easy to talk around. So the USB receptacle, let's say you pay $25 for that, or let's say $50, depending, again, making $25 or $50 versus $1 or $2.50, hey, that's a lot. If you multiply these, customers, they like them in the kitchen, they want them in their office, in commercial facilities, cafeterias, common areas. Hey, that $25 multiplies quickly. You're on the job. You're doing the same type of installation. Why not make a little more money? And in the end, the customer appreciates it. You're adding a solution for them. They value that input, and they'll probably look to you again for similar suggestions down the line.
So why upsell? Well, in a way of speaking, it's all about making customers for life. Upselling is a necessary component of what we call consultative selling, and it's an honest approach, and it's a winning strategy. It's not selling somebody something they don't need. It's not selling somebody something that's more expensive than it ought to be. It's selling them something that's going to make their life easier and give them what they want and what they need. If you go back, Tom, to the example of the receptacles you were just talking about, if you sell somebody a USB receptacle, you have a situation where if it turns out their neighbor walks in and says, boy, that's nice, I really like what you got, I wish the electrician who came to my house had sold me one of them, now you have an entirely different scenario. So upselling is not something which is pushing somebody something into buyer's remorse at some point. I think it's actually quite the contrary. It's pushing somebody into something that they didn't know about, and they'll be glad to have. And in the process of doing that, you're making customers for life. You know, after sale number 1 there, and that's the green bar, if things have gone as they should, you continue to have a business opportunity with that customer over a period of years, and it doesn't have to stop at 9 years. Creating a customer lifetime value is what comes out of this, and you're continually enlarging your customer base as you do it. Incidentally, as you're going about this, you're creating a marketable value in your company that's well beyond the plain old net worth number on your balance sheet, and that's the sort of thing that cannot be achieved, is what I meant to say, in any other way with conventional construction business. So let's talk about customers for life. How do you upsell? How do you do it? Well, for starters, you could, when you're there, say, start your conversation with something like, you know, they don't build them like they used to, and if they did, they'd be installing products just like this. What do you think, Tom? Or would you take it from there?
Good points. But I want to just add to that, too, and a lot of contractors are typically good at their core mission, and that's installing electrical devices. And they're not always comfortable or good at this upselling thing. You know, that's why we're having this webinar today, obviously. But one thing I want to suggest to the contractors when they're trying to embrace this suggestion of upselling is to really develop their skill of listening. You know, when you go in, once again, on that estimate or that service call or that repair job, whether it's residentially or commercially, listen. Just start off the conversation, break the ice, get the customer comfortable with you, then just listen. And they'll volunteer, information to you, their challenges, where they're going with their home or their facility, challenges that they have. So listen, and then things rise to the top, and you can, offer solutions. And really, where I'm going with this, Fred, you touched on something, consultative selling. Really, the day of the installer is behind us. As a electrical professional, you really are looked to as a consultant. Oftentimes what I've seen when contractors go on a job is the homeowner or the facility manager is prepared. Oftentimes they have a list that they've prepared in advance, and they hit you with question after question. Hey, what about home automation? What are my options? What about surge protection? I lost a TV or I lost a computer. My kids are... Hey, these are things that you need to be prepared to, and this is a good thing. You know what I mean? You can offer solutions. So, the more you get practiced at this and prepare yourself, or, have a little kit that you could take with you to help you on these sales calls to kind of, build your thoughts around. These are things that will, again, to Fred's point, increase customer satisfaction. And really, I always think in terms of what's in it for me, and if you're a contractor, hey, increase margin. We're all here to make money. We're all here. This is America. This is all about, providing solutions and making more money on the job. So once again, listen, determine interest and challenges, and suggest solutions. So I just talked about upselling. We talked about, the spec calls for a receptacle, and you sell them up to the USB device. Cross-selling is kind of similar, okay? Cross-selling is suggesting an item that goes with with a product perhaps you're already selling. And a great example of this is, McDonald's, right? McDonald's has been successful at this. I don't know if they still do it, but remember the days when you would go into McDonald's and order a burger and a shake, and they'd say, would you like to supersize that? Here it is, the person that's asking you that question is on the lowest rung of the employment food chain. It's probably their first job. They're probably still in high school. They're working at McDonald's, yet they're selling up. Am I offended when they ask me if I want to supersize? No. If it's a nice hot day, maybe I would like the big jug of soda. Or you know what, I do like those fries. Yeah, go ahead, give me the fries. What, another 50 cents? I'll take it. So why not do that when you're on the job, is upsell and cross-sell. Example that you see on the screen here, if you're installing a Decora receptacle, why not offer a screwless wall plate? It gives the customer a more finished look. You don't have to see the screws. It's just another People are very conscious about that. You know, the home improvement shows are all over the TV, and they're showing you how to do every little thing. Why not something as simple as a screwless wall plate? It doesn't cost much more. Customer isn't offended, and you're providing a nice solution for them. So other examples, just to throw them your way. You know, you can see the difference here. I'm trying to highlight the difference between upselling and cross-selling on the left side. You know, spec calls for a toggle switch. Perhaps you want to sell them up to a Decora switch. Or maybe even better yet, the Decora slide dimmer. You know, the dimmer, there's so many great places in the home or business where a dimmer offers a lot of convenience and aesthetics. You know, from everybody thinks of the dining room, but you know, I have one in my bathroom, so if I have to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, I can set the dimmer, preset dimmer to a lower light level and not completely wake me up if I have to use the bathroom in the middle of the night. So that's upselling. To the right side, you have cross-selling. Here's a great example right here. You know, you see, if you go into a home, or an office for that matter, and you see the Echo device, the Echo device that you can talk to, that Alexa talks back. If you see one of those, you know right out of the gate that the customer is a techie person, or they embrace new technologies and kind of cool things. So no self-respecting homeowner should be with an Echo device without a Leviton Decora Smart Dimmer, where you can tell the device, Alexa, turn on the lights. Alexa, dim to 50%. It provides convenience and really a trick. You know, a lot of people, if they have company over, they like to show off these devices. So just a great, you know, once again, that's, in my opinion, that's an easy cross-sell opportunity. Lastly, just to point out, you know, who's been successful at this is, you know, online retailers. Perhaps you've been to a distributor, supply house, online website, and you're rooting around looking for whatever it is, the device you're looking for, or wire, whatever it is. Oftentimes, you'll see them in a sidebar on the website. They'll suggest other things too. You know, frequently bought together. You know, if you're buying wire, maybe they'll show you a plug or a connector to go on the end of that wire. You know, they have complex algorithms that show, you know, related products. They're doing this. This is online. You know, they figured this out. They make a lot of money selling that way. So, you know, kind of take their lead. And I just want to point out, I mentioned, you know, distributor supply houses. You know, there's a lot to be said with a brick-and-mortar distributor supply house. By going to the distributor, they can offer a lot of solutions for you. You know, let's face it, you know, us manufacturers and our partners, our distributor partners, you know, we're not successful unless you're successful. We have a lot of products, a lot of programs, a lot of things to help you be more successful. So, you know, if I go into I bought a new car a couple of years ago. When I went to the auto dealership, you know, I looked around the window before I walked in to see where the salesman was, so I'd walk in the opposite door. People typically don't like salesmen, but in our industry, it's a little bit different. You know, once again, we're not successful unless you're successful. So, you know, we're here to help you. We know when we sell you a device that's not going in your house. We know what's going in a customer's house or a facility. So we have a lot of programs to help you out. We'll talk a little bit about that in a few minutes. But just suffice to say, you know, seek out distributors and manufacturers for anything from a joint sales call to different tools that we may have available to you to help you out.
So why use these techniques? Well, upselling and cross-selling will position your business as a preferred solutions provider. And if you look on our graphic here at the virtuous circle that comes about, and just start at the top, there we've got increased profit margins, and that grows your business, and that leads to customer loyalty, because with a bigger business and more customers, there's only going to be more of it. That increases repeat business. Out of that whole phenomenon comes referrals, which takes you right back up to the top, and the virtuous circle continues. And just a footnote, we've been focusing here on residential service work, and you will hear folks talking as though things are different in commercial work or industrial work. And, you know, the products may come in different grades, but the reality is everything we've discussed here fits every kind of work. Take customer loyalty, for example. Nothing drives your success more than customer loyalty. It's paramount in every kind of work. So the principles that apply here in residential service apply to every other kind and are worth remembering in every context. And that takes us to that one fundamental we keep on getting back to, and that's customers for life. And as you see here on the screen, it's a page out of the current issue of Electrical Contractor magazine. And here we have an article which featured, as a matter of fact, Leviton and Electric in Talmadge, Ohio. And some great points came out of this, and they're on the screen, and I think they're worth repeating. You have to always strive to be the company that your customers turn to for solutions when they have a problem. You got to set out to make every customer a repeat customer by making every opportunity the best service for every customer every time. And that means, among other things, in the midst of providing this great service, one of the things that's very, very important is keeping your customers informed about new products and services. In the end, if you do that, you will make every customer feel as though they are your number one customer, no matter how small the job may be.
So, opportunities are in every room. I mean, let's call out some specific sell-up, cross-sell opportunities. Opportunities, let's face it, for the contractor to make more money while on the job. Looking at the illustration here, typically, we already talked about the USB charger at the top. That's great. Just to the right of that, the humidity sensor. We've been very successful with that. A lot of homeowners, I know my kids, they don't turn on the exhaust fan when they take a shower. I tell them time after time that they don't. We find that in landlords, tenants don't turn on. People, if they don't own it, they don't typically take care of it. So mold is a big problem. This is a great problem solver. So the humidity sensor. You look at other things, the front door, you see programmable timer. That's a great thing. Those programmable timers have astronomical clocks in them. They know when the sun sets and the sun rises, so as the days get shorter and longer, it automatically advances or retards the timeout for the light. So it's a great product. In addition, the Decora Digital with Bluetooth. If you look there for the living room, we always think in terms of the living room or the dining room with regard to dimmers. That device also has the astronomical clock and timer capability, so you could put that at the front door. It has a dimmer or a switch version, the Decora Digital with Bluetooth. So I'm not going to go through all these here. You guys get the idea. There's a lot of different opportunities. Leviton, you may know, also just came out with a load center, which is a great product and really a differentiator from other load center products out there on the market. We invite you to take a look at our website to see all the great advantages that has. But other things too, you're looking at a residential application. If you do commercial work, surge protection is very big, and that's oftentimes people don't think of surge until they've had a problem, a lightning strike, and they lost some equipment. So surge is a great solution. Audio, video, people, music's big these days. I don't know if you know that, but music is big. People are willing to invest in the nice AV system within their home, audio, video systems, home theater, and just plain audio. And lastly, energy management. The cost of electricity never goes down, keeps going up. So look for offer energy management solutions in the home. You'll find that your customers oftentimes are very receptive to these cross-sell and upsell opportunities.
So, getting to helpful tips. And looking back this afternoon, we've been talking about taking on the role of trusted advisor. And just to underscore one more time, that whole concept of developing trust in your customers is so important and will lead to so much more. We're talking about demonstrating the knowledge of a technical expert, but not being too techy. And we're talking about mainly engaging with your customer as a solutions provider, solving problems for them, because after all, that's what service is all about. Now, I'm certain that almost everybody who's on the line here today has done a lot of that already. But let's go back over a few helpful tips that will perhaps help you kick things up to the next plateau and a new level of experience and accomplishment.
Well, some tips that we have listed on the screen here. We talked about listening. That's a very important thing, and of course explaining the benefits that products, advanced electrical devices can give to customers. But I want to point out some other things too. I always say, customer profiling is important. Look, before you go on a call, a service call or estimate, if you can, do a little research on the person. Find out a little bit about them, you know. If it's a mature customer, I mean, my folks, you know, they're not receptive. They haven't had a service call to their house in some time. So if something does go wrong, typically they just want it fixed. My folks don't embrace technology. You know, they're senior citizens. The chances of you selling them some advanced lighting controls is pretty slim. Versus if you go into a house and they've got, as mentioned before, the Alexa, you see the curved TV, these are the people, these are the targets, these are the areas that you want to spend more time with. And another tip I want to give is to use tools, use available sales tools. I mentioned, you know, hey, the distributor, the manufacturer is your friend, you know, and if you don't want to talk to us, just, you know, seek us out on our website. We offer a lot of great tools. One tool that I recommend is having a leave behind. If you go on an estimate and you leave something behind, no matter what you're pitching, whether that be Surge or Smart Home or Load Center, whatever that is, go to the manufacturer's website, and of course we recommend Leviton.com, but again, we realize that we don't sell everything, but whatever it is you're pitching, go in there first, download a brochure. When you leave behind a brochure with your card, it positions you as, if you will, an agent of the company. You know, just because you didn't print a brochure, you left it behind, they associate that brochure with you, they recognize the Leviton name, the brochure calls out all the features and benefits, it's the silent salesman, you left it behind on your estimate, hey, the chance, you got a greater chance of them calling you back than the other guy that went on the estimate that didn't leave the lead behind. And also, once again, it's a silent salesman. They'll learn about it and they'll call you back. They'll want the Bluetooth dimmer. They'll want something like that that is typically more lucrative for you. So, by the way, we have on Leviton.com, Leviton.com/contractor. It's a resource page we have specific to contractors, and we have a Leviton library on there with downloads for every different type of product category that you may want. And once again, we encourage you to reach out to the Leviton salesman. There's a lot of other things, and the distributor salesman. There's a lot of other things we can offer. We can help identify customers. We can do all kinds of great things for you. We may even go on a joint sales call with you if you'd like, or if the opportunity presents itself. So that's all I have is with regard to tips. But Fred, anything else on your end?
Well, you know, Tom, you have been talking about sales and salesmen and so forth, and I know that most of us who have a background in electrical contracting really don't feel as though we have ever really been in a pure selling job. And I'd say is a very important tip in all this. I think that you have to think of something that actually most salesmen fail to grasp, and that is your ability to listen, as you were saying, is a lot more important than your ability to talk. And I would just want to underscore that because you brought it up, and I think that it's a very, very essential part of the whole proposition. Being a good listener is hard, and you mentioned doing a little research, for example, before you do go call on somebody, and I think that is very important because that way many times you won't be hearing things for the first time, and you'll be ready for things that come up in the conversation. So when you're there, you're not a professional salesman, and you know it, but you can do what thousands of consultants do if we're talking about consultative selling, and this is what thousands of consultants do every day, and that is hear what their customers have to say, and then they play it back to them. And that shows genuine concern because at the end of the day, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Good point, Fred. Good point. So this is our last slide, and we kind of left it at, you know, how do you add value? And they say if you attend a seminar, and of course these webinars are online seminars, that's the definition of a webinar. They say that if you got one good thing out of it, it was worth going or worth attending. So I hope everybody got something out of this today. We're going to turn this over for some Q&A and answer any questions that you may have.
Great. Thanks, Fred and Tom. This is a great presentation, and I think it's going to be very valuable to our audience. Now, as Tom said, we're going to open the floor to discussion and comments and questions. So I want to thank those of you who have already submitted some questions. If anybody has any questions or comments, please feel free to submit them. There's a Q&A box at the bottom right corner of your screen. You just type in there, and we'll see if we can get to them. So, Fred and Tom, the first question I have is about, I think this is more for you, Tom, the receptacle with the USB ports. The question is asking whether it has approval from Apple, and there's another part of the question is whether it drains current while it's not being used by a charger.
Both good questions. To answer the first part with regard to Apple, yes, it is compatible with the Apple devices. In fact, we have what we call a smart chip in there. The smart chip immediately recognizes several things. It recognizes what type of device you've plugged in, whether that be an Apple or an Android device, and gives it the right amount of power. I believe our devices give the most power. They charge the fastest. In addition, it recognizes whether it's a phone or a tablet or what type of device you've plugged in and gives it the right amount of charge. You'll also notice that when you looked at that device, it's further back. I don't have the ability to scroll back, but we have a USB, the regular USB, and then we have the new USB-C. A lot of the new devices have the different charging port in them, and of course we have USB charging devices that do both the C, and I believe it's the A is the other one. So we have some that are just A, we have some that are A and C. So we have pretty much everything that you would want with regard to a charging device. And the other one was, I believe, the other question you had was with regard to vampire power. I believe it does suck a little bit of power in the off position, but once again, it has the smart chip technology, so that's limited. I'd have to tell you the exact amount of draw, I'd have to get back to you on that.
Okay, great. So we got a comment from another audience member that they said they install those types of receptacles all the time in kitchen counter peninsulas and where they know that customers will be using phones and laptops. I was wondering if you could speak a little bit more to that, the specific. I know we had that one slide, but specific. Can you get more specific in use cases where those types of receptacles could be useful that you could consider recommending them?
Well, certainly. He mentioned the top ones, the kitchen countertop, because you come home from work and that's the first place you at least in my house, where we throw the phone and charge it up before so it's ready for the next day. But certainly, office, your home office. Studies, even the living room. I mean, today's young people today, let's face it, they're on the smartphone all the time. So, anywhere where you congregate, even the bedroom, like, maybe by the night table, so you could, charge it up while you're sleeping. A lot of people like to have that phone right on hand. Commercially, we sell a lot of them in common areas. We sell, people are installing them in cafeteria areas. They're installing them in, you see them in airports. I mean, you're seeing them everywhere these days. And, of course, let's not forget hospitality, hotel rooms. People are traveling, so oftentimes they forget their transformer, or the transformer is just another thing to carry around. So we're selling a lot of these in the hospitality areas. I mean, really anywhere. I mean, you just show that device to a customer, and they'll start thinking of areas. But certainly, you hit it right on the head. The kitchen area is certainly number one.
Great. We also had a question. It's with regard to customers' awareness of prices. I guess in these digital times, I know when I'm shopping for something, I look it up online and I see how much it's going to cost me. So the question was how to navigate a situation where you're trying to sell a product to a homeowner or a facility owner, and you spoke about markup, and you have to justify your markup, but they say that they could buy it cheaper, maybe online somewhere. Is there any general advice you can offer for that kind of scenario?
Actually, I do have some advice on that, and I've talked to a lot of contractors on this before. I mean, it's an age-old question, even before the digital time. And what I always tell them is, like, if you go get your car fixed, the car repair mechanic, he'll mark it up. Do you go and tell him, hey, listen, I could have got that alternator myself somewhere else? No, it's like unheard of. Why it's accepted in our business, or why the customer has the gall to say that to you, and what I've seen typically done successfully is contractors will say, if you want to get your own buy your own parts, your own devices, well, you can certainly do that, but just be aware that I got to raise my estimate a little bit, because when I go to the supply house, I buy that a lot cheaper than you do. When you go in, you're going to pay more than I pay, right? Because I buy it all the time. I'm a regular. They know me by name. I go in there, they give me donuts. So when the contractor gets a better price than the homeowner, so that's part of how he can give them a lower price to begin with. So if they say that, you say, listen, if that's what you want to do, two things that are going to hurt you. One, now I'm going to have to charge you more just because, hey, listen, I have to feed my family too. And two, now you own the thing. In fact, I've seen contractors that actually like that better if they're installing some sort of high-tech device that can break. So that way the contractor says, listen, just by the way, if it breaks, now it's on you, right? If I supply it, I sold it to you, there's more liability there. So, again, you have to tread lightly. You have to know your customer. But we're in America. I don't think there's any problem with, I think everybody knows that when you sell something on, you make more money on it. And, if you go in for surgery, do you ever, tell the doctor that you're going to bring your own scalpel and surgical supplies? I mean, it's funny when you think about it, but that's the answer you really got to give and, tactfully handle it like that.
It's funny, about the same time when you were in your response talking about, if it breaks, it's on you, or it's on them, not you. We got the listener who sent that question. Had the comment that they back up the product, and if it fails, it's on your dime, not mine. So I think you guys are kindred spirits there. So I wanted to loop Fred in on this one, on this topic specifically too. We got another comment that many customers are shopping by cost and estimate, and they're kind of price focused. So how can you emphasize other aspects of upselling and cross-selling when you have a customer who's looking at that bottom line? Can you, for example, maybe sell them on long-term costs? Can you say, hey, this product is going to last you longer, so you don't have to buy another one and install another one later? Are there any tips like that you guys would recommend when you have a really practical customer?
Well, sure, and I think the answer there, Tim, is that actually shopping for the low dollar amount is not always really practical. And I think you have to be upfront with customers and tell them, look, we're looking for people who are going to be customers for life. I mentioned Spielman Electric there before. When you pull up to their office, the sign says Spielman Electric, creating customers for life. And that's quite a way of going about your business, and I think that it's something you have to be upfront with people on, and take the conversation away from the price and take it into other areas that you can offer to them. For example, we were just talking about the warranty aspect of it. If you are putting something in, you can offer a warranty, and you should, and it makes a great deal of sense to give them a 5-year warranty and ask them if they're just buying a product, if that's going to be quite the same thing if they do it another way. So I think you have to emphasize the quality aspect of things, and I think that actually listening to what they have to say, I think you can detect other things which are important to them, which you can seize on and make part of your conversation.
Hey, I just want to throw one thing in there too. One of the easiest things for contractors to do is look professional. And I hope I'm not insulting anybody on the line, and maybe I shouldn't even say it, but some contractors don't always look professional. It's the easiest thing to do. I mean, we're all actors in our jobs and careers. We all try to portray ourselves as professional. And the good news, it's easy. If you wear a company shirt, if you groom yourself nicely, people, when you're installing electrical apparatus, there's kind of a safety fear factor amongst our customers. It's something that they're not going to want to do themselves. There's a danger element to electricity. So people are willing to pay a little more. They may not always want to go with the cheapest guy, the guy that's working out of his trunk and, you know, that looks like he was just smoking a number in the parking lot, right? You don't want to work with them. They want to work with a professional. They want to see a guy that's in, you know, dressed nice. He's got a nice, his truck is clean. He speaks well. Comes in with the brochure. He's aligned with a reputable manufacturer. That's a big part of it. So it's all these different marketing tactics that you kind of pool together that enables you to command a higher price on the job.
Great. So on that topic, we had a couple people send in comments to those points. One was that they tell customers that they get a one-year warranty, which includes labor to replace if necessary. So that might be something that a customer wouldn't get otherwise, you know. And another listener wrote in that part of the selling features is that you have it and can install it right now. So that, you know, the customer doesn't have to wait. Yeah, I think that there's a lot of good tips there. Hopefully people can pick up on those. So the next question I want to move on to is whether you guys can make any recommendations for the best types of products to try upselling and cross-selling with.
Well, you know, first of all, I want to point out that it's a great question. We developed a brochure that we're going to my colleague here, are we sending it to them, Janet? We're going to send everybody on the call a upselling brochure. We're going to give you tips on this, on, you know, different products that the spec may call for this, try that, you know. And so we try to give you some ideas. We try to lead you in the right direction. And once again, if you go to leviton.com /contractor, there's all kinds of different brochures and such in there that can help you think in terms of upselling and different categories that are available to the, and there's so many of them. I mean, the industry is advancing so quickly. You know, our Decora smart devices, you know, we've been selling automation for 20 years with limited success, mostly, you know, providing solutions, special solutions for people. But now, I mean, now that we have, you know, Google in the game and Amazon in the game, you know, let's face it, they're competitors of ours. But you know what? All ships rise on an incoming tide. They're putting a lot of money into advertising. You know, the Alexa that helps us. You know, people, like I said before, you know, any person that has an Alexa, if you're putting a dimmer in, there should be no reason why they're not putting a smart dimmer in there that they can control from Alexa. It's just, you know, it doesn't cost much more. You're getting a lot more benefit out of it. So, you know, by virtue of the fact that, as Fred said, you're on the call, you're trying to embrace new technologies, we invite you to look to Leviton and any other manufacturer that you're aligned with to see, you know, what the latest and greatest technologies are. And oftentimes it's not, it makes your life easier too. We have things that, like apps that help you program these devices. The programming of smart devices is not challenging like it used to be. Our Decora Bluetooth dimmer, programs right from your smartphone. We walk you through it. If you want the lights to come on, come off at dawn, there's an icon of the sun. It means it comes off at dawn. There's an icon of the moon. That means it comes on at evening. We try to make it as simple as possible. So your job programming and installing these things, we try to make as easy as possible.
And Tim, just to pick up on one further thought, when you are listening to the customer and listening to what they need and what they want, and you're ready to come back to them with all the good things in whatever product it may be that you want to show them and hopefully get them to buy, I think it's important to address the things that they have told you about and the things that they believe they need and the things they want, and be careful not to get too far out in front of your skis, because some of these products have just an endless number of features to them, and if you can address the things which they think they want and need and have them very, very well convinced that that's something that therefore they should do business with you on, I think it's important that you don't go too far, because sometimes you can go down the other side of the curve by showing them so many things that they'll figure that this has got much more than I ever really wanted and bargained for, and that's why the additional price and so forth. So I would just caution you on that.
Yeah, actually, Fred, I think maybe that's a good segue to the next question that kind of came up. It was more of a comment that that some customers just aren't going to fit the sales model of trying to upsell and cross-sell. And I know it's kind of an intuition thing and it's going to vary by customer, but do you guys have any tips for recognizing when maybe a customer is you know, maybe you're getting a little too pushy, or, you know, what to do in that instance? Is there a point where you should just give up, you know, kind of give up and say, hey, if you're interested in any more, you know, you can contact me here? What do you guys recommend in that instance?
Well, I think this is Fred, Tim. I think that for one thing, it's worthwhile thinking of the customer in terms of what sort of persona they fit. There are a lot of people like myself who are in their 70s who have never turned on a computer, and there are others who have done things with online that you just couldn't believe. And so you have to be careful about categorizing people strictly by age group, for example, in their interest level in this kind of feature or benefit accordingly. And so if you start to look at people in terms of personas as opposed to just standard demographics in terms of their age or what sort of house they live in or whatever, you can start to understand a little bit better about how they'll respond to the sorts of things that you're selling and marketing to them. And so it could very well be that somebody who's quite a bit younger than you would expect really isn't too interested in something that's so high-tech, whereas somebody at the other end of the age scale, et cetera, could be quite interested. And we've all been in business and doing things for a long time and have been in situations where we had to kind of size up the folks we were dealing with. I think you can obey your instincts, and hopefully that will help you guide you in the way you're going with the sale.
Great. Thanks for that, guys. So, sorry, one second. I had a question and I wanted to talk about it. Oh, okay. So we had a comment about one way that you could maybe have an inroad is maybe not necessarily about, you know, high technology or modern technology, but this person said smoke detectors are a great place to start because it shows that you care about their safety. So I think that's a really good point. Can you guys speak to that and maybe some other similar areas you could look at and speak to your customers about to show that you care about them?
Well, certainly, you know, safety is important, and I touched on that before. That's why, you know, the customer wants to have some confidence in whoever they're hiring. So it's not just all about price. Again, marketing is about, you know, offering, you know, it's the whole package that you present to the customer rather than just price. And, of course, safety is another angle. At Leviton, you know, we make a lot of safety products, the GFCIs, the AFCIs, you know, all kinds of different products that we offer that are safety. But, and just to speak to, you know, the new automation devices, ours will communicate with smoke detectors. It works with Nest. So you can have if the smoke detector goes off, the lights will flash. If the alarm senses an intruder, the lights will come on or flash. You can program it to if this, then that. So, you know, if the customer's into that, if you are selling a smoke detector, or if they are into the safety, they might be receptive to these other cross-selling opportunities. And of course, safety, we also make, you know, simple things like tamper-resistant receptacles. A lot of contractors initially were skeptical about TR, and now that they're really required throughout the house, you know, they've come a long way. They're a lot better now, and the customers have embraced them, and, you know, the price points have leveled off. So, you know, everybody enjoys the added safety of all the different safety devices that we offer.
And just to pick up on that, Tom, you know, lots of times you get out on a service call and you are approaching a customer with a company minimum charge for making a service call, and you all of a sudden have that situation where you have solved the problem in 10 minutes. One of the great solutions to that, knowing that you have an hour and 50 minutes more in that basic amount of time you're charging for, is to tell them that you'd like to give them a safety inspection. And we have a 17-point safety inspection, and while I'm here, why don't you let me do that? One of the things you're going to come across is GFCIs. Now, one of the more unappreciated aspects of GFCIs is they don't live forever. And so here you are with extra time and a minimum charge service call, and you're making a safety inspection. You're going to be checking the GFCIs, and you may indeed actually have an upsell as a result of the fact that you had all this extra time. So all of this can come about in many different ways, but certainly coming at it from the perspective of safety is a great way to start.
Good point, Fred. How many times have we been on a service call where all you had to do was push the button on the GFCI, and then the customer feels embarrassed? And a great tip there, Fred, to do the safety inspection. Great solution to make them feel more at ease, and to you're there getting paid anyway. Why not offer that solution for them?
Great. So this next question's really really good. Fred, I know that you expressed this concern when we were developing this event about we're talking to business owners, and maybe they have concerns about their electricians on site being able to talk to their customers in these terms. So what would you say to contractors who are on the line who have those concerns about their service electricians, and what can you do to train or educate them to be able to make them capable of having these conversations?
Well, I think for starters, Tim, most, if not all of them, are capable of, to some degree, of doing this in their own way. Nobody's going to come off as a service electrician as a polished salesman usually, and probably it's better if they don't. Quite frankly, one of the things that we all have to face is that the only way you can get a lot of these messages across is through all hands meetings with your service group. And one of the unfortunate things we all face is the fact that if I'm going to bring in all of my service electricians into someplace in the office to spend an hour or so on a meeting to talk about this or the other thing, I automatically start to think about the meter running for what it's going to cost to do that. The fact is, they're having meetings all day long of one form or the other for which there's a meter running. It's just at a different place. I think it's important that anybody who has a service group regularly spend some amount of time with the whole group in safety and other related kinds of meetings. It's something that can't be replaced in any other way, and I would just throw that out as something which, on the surface of it, might seem expensive, but actually the alternative is what's expensive if you don't do it.
I just want to add to that too, Fred. I mean, let's face it, everybody's got different skill sets. Some people are just not good, salespeople. They're just not good. They're good with their task. They know how to install the receptacle, but sometimes you just can't put them in front of a customer. That's why if you have some sort of, sometimes I've seen contractors have some sort of sales kit that they just give them a kit. The kit will show like that USB device. It'll show a dimmer. Maybe take a flyer as soon as they walk in the door. They can hand them, here, ma'am. By the way, there's some other things I just wanted to make you aware of that we have available. Just put it in their hand. The silent salesman. By the way, ma'am, just let me know if you want any of these. And you open the kit, and that's it. You let them study it while you're doing whatever task at hand you've been called on. But again, you have to not everybody's a salesman. You have to know the strengths and weaknesses of your team, and leverage them accordingly.
And Tim, let me just throw in something, and this might sound like a commercial. Every electrician who works for you in electrical contracting business should have a subscription to Electrical Contractor magazine because of all the great sources of information it provides, and in addition, those things which NECA can provide, for example, through the kinds of training and things that they have. You have an industry association for a reason, and this is one of the great ways that you can capitalize on that.
Okay, great. I think to go along the tail end of that question, we had a comment that maybe you could do role play training with your technicians. So next question, and just want to say we're getting close to the end. So if anybody has any last-minute questions you want to submit, go ahead and use that Q&A box. The next question is, do you have any questions of do you have any examples of contractors that have become service-oriented, and has it really worked? I know we talked about Christine Parsons with Spielman Electric, Fred, but I'm sure you have a number of contractors you've spoken to who've gone service-oriented.
Yes, Tim, we do have a lot of contractors service-oriented. A number of them I know quite well through our Great Service Forums organization, which is an organization which is put together just for contractors who are involved in electrical service work. It's an interesting thing. Once you do get into something like that, you realize that there are contractors out there who have seen the value of making the service work a bigger part of their overall revenue mix, because when you do, the outcome, which is more important than anything else, is you basically increase the market value of your company. Not that you're going to sell your company anytime soon, but there is something to be said for increasing the market value, and that's what comes of this. So just the benefit of the recurring revenues that come from a service organization make it something that every contractor who is thinking strategically out into the future should be focusing on.
Okay, great. I think with that we're out of questions. So we made it almost all the way to 3 p.m. So I think that's a good place to end it. Do you guys have any final thoughts you want to add?
Just want to thank everybody for taking the time today to join us today. Hopefully you got some good information out of this, and we appreciate your time.
I'd like to add my thanks as well, Tom.
Awesome. All right, well, on behalf of Electrical Contractor and Leviton, I want to thank everyone once again for attending. Also, thanks to you, Tom and Fred, for an excellent presentation and for your expertise. Be on the lookout, everyone, for the recording of this event, which you'll be notified about in an email